Should be a fun video today, guys. We're going to look at all the World Cup groups that contain an Asian national team, and I'm going to rank those groups from most difficult to the easiest. Not a very difficult concept to grasp, very simple. It's already in the title, but I just wanted to repeat that for the folks in the back. If you guys want to see me do this exercise again for other federations, CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, CAF, UEFA even, let me know in the comments. I like to give the people what they want. So if y'all want to see that, we can run the series back another time. Of course, also, if you want to see more videos about Asian football specifically, or the World Cup, or both at the same time, I have great news for you. I'll be dropping 100 hours of content from now up until the start of the World Cup, including in-depth group analysis. So plenty for you guys to look forward to, okay? We're going to start with the most difficult group, and we're going to end with the easiest. And if I say something in here you don't agree with, let me know. If you agree with everything, let me know. Let's get started with the most difficult group, and it is 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, unequivocally, should they qualify, Iraq in Group I. And this is a layup, folks. You got France, back-to-back World Cup finals, World Cup champions in 2018. They're probably trying to win the freaking tournament again this time around, probably a top 3 favorite if you polled most football fans. You got Norway, who are a top 5 European side on form. Many people expect them to go deep at this tournament. And Senegal, a top 2 African side, maybe the best African side, who will not only be aiming to win the AFCON this month, but they will be looking to make a quarterfinal or better at the World Cup. All 3 of these teams, quarterfinal or better. If any of these teams went out in the round of 16, it would be a failure. Maybe you could say Norway wouldn't be a failure because they haven't been here in so long, but I think the Norwegians want a quarterfinal. France, if they went out of the round of 16, I mean, Deschamps is already leaving, but that would be an absolute embarrassment. It'd be a day of mourning declared in France. Macron would have to come out with a public decree if that happened. And in Senegal, man, they made the knockouts back-to-back and haven't been able to win another game. They're tired of watching Ghana go far at World Cups, and they're sick and tired of everyone talking about Morocco last time around. They want to make a semifinal. I'm telling y'all now. Will they? This isn't a prediction video, but that is the expectation of these teams. This is the closest group to a 32-team World Cup that we saw this iteration and that we'll probably ever see again. Everyone hands down said Group I, group of death, and that just happens to be Iraq's group. With all due love and respect, if Iraq got a point in this group, it would be a massive, historic W. And that's not because Iraq are bad. You could have thrown Japan in this group, guys, and it still would have been the hardest. You could have thrown Korea, Australia, whoever you want. Pick a team, throw them in there. You could throw Spain in here, and they'd be like, we don't want this group. So how do you think the Iraqis feel? It is hands down the most difficult group. The second most difficult group, in my opinion, is Group K with Uzbekistan. And simply put here, you got 2 teams who want to make the semifinal. You got 2 teams whose objective is a Final Four at this tournament. Portugal and Colombia. Both of those teams could and should make a semifinal. I know I rate Colombia higher than most people. I'm cool with that. This is my channel. I don't want to just follow the herd on everything. I got my own opinions, and y'all disagree with some of them. That's okay. But if I'm ranking teams on the likelihood of making a semifinal, I'd probably have Portugal 4th or 5th, and I've had Colombia 6 or 7. Somewhere on there. I think there are elite national teams, and not just 1, 2 elite national teams. And to make it even harder for the Uzbeks, you have DR Congo, who is an underrated, tough-as-nails African side. Could Uzbekistan beat DR Congo? Of course they could. But let me know down below in the comments, are they the favorite in that game? Is Uzbekistan the favorite against DR Congo? I don't really know. I think you can make an argument for both sides. I can tell you for damn sure they're not the favorite against Colombia. And I can tell you that they're not the favorite against Portugal. So they're not the favorite in any game. You could say DR Congo, it's a draw. You know, probably most people have it as a 1-1, something like that. Now, the Uzbeks could win a game. This is not a prediction video. This is just grading the difficulty of the group. And it is extremely difficult. Not to mention, talking about Uzbekistan themselves, they have Fabio Cannavaro, who I will admit, it has been a very positive start to life as Uzbek manager, but you're not doing friendlies anymore, man. This is an Al Ain Cup. It was great that you lifted that awesome 2 trophies in the same calendar year for Uzbekistan. Congratulations. I'm ecstatic about that. I want Uzbekistan to win the World Cup. You know how happy I would be if that happened? This is nothing reflecting my personal thoughts about the team. But Cannavaro is a manager who, when the pressure's on, when things need to happen, he has failed so far. And I cannot think of a higher stakes situation than the World Cup. I can't. I don't even think the Champions League compares to this. So we're going to see him in an unfamiliar environment, in a very difficult group, with a debutante national team, have to get it done. There's no guarantee of success. There's also not a guarantee of failure. The good thing about Uzbekistan is they're pretty good at everything. So could they stun Colombia? Yeah, they probably could. Could they stun Portugal? They probably could. But I'm grading how difficult the group is. And realistically, if Uzbekistan took 3 points in this group, you would have to say that was successful. If they narrowly lost to Portugal, narrowly lost to Colombia, beat DR Congo 2-1, how could you possibly say this World Cup was a failure? Of course, they want to make the knockouts, and 4 points is not unthinkable. But because I see a realistic ceiling at 3 to 4 points, given how good the other teams are, I think it's the second most difficult group. In the third most difficult group for Asian teams, I have Group B with Qatar. And that's because any win here is not only very unlikely, but would immediately become potentially the biggest victory in Qatari national team history. You have Canada, who is, I would say, of the CONCACAF hosts, arguably the strongest team. They're certainly stronger than Mexico, and they can go pound for pound with the United States. They've certainly beat the crap out of them in head-to-head recently. You have Switzerland, who seem to love to overperform all the freaking time at seemingly every single major tournament, which is annoying for everybody that has to face them. And you have potentially Italy. Now, if it could be somebody else, like if DR Congo doesn't make Group K, for example, then I'll make a part 2. Hit subscribe. I got so much content for y'all. Hit subscribe. It will be updated. But as of now, I'm going to assume it would be Italy here, who would immediately become one of the strongest pot fours in the history of the World Cup. Not what Qatar want. We obviously know these guys somehow are back-to-back Asian Cup champions. It's not even somehow. It's because of Akram Afif, the Asian GOAT. If you know, you know. All right? But Akram Afif is probably not going to be enough to get anything against these three opponents, in which I can't say Qatar have a single advantage. So they're facing all of what I just said as probably what, guys? Bottom 4 side at the World Cup? Comment down below. Where does Qatar rank of all the teams at the World Cup? Bottom 4, surely. They're probably better than New Zealand. They're probably better than some of the play-in teams. They are better than Curacao. I mean, the shit might end there. Haiti's got an argument. Haitians will be furious at me for saying that, but they have an argument against Haiti. Does Haiti win back-to-back Asian Cups? Absolutely freaking not. No, not in a million years. The reason I had this narrowly easier than Group K is because I don't think the Swiss are trying to make a semifinal. I don't think Italy can make a semifinal. I don't think Canada can make a semifinal. I think the expectations of this group are narrowly lower than what they would be in Group K. That's really the only reason. Am I saying that Qatar is more likely to advance than Uzbekistan? No, I don't think that. I think Uzbekistan is much more likely to advance than Qatar, but I think the Uzbeks have to do it in a tougher environment. That's why. So moving on to the fourth most difficult team, in my opinion, my favorite group at the World Cup, Group J and Jordan. Simply put, you got the defending World Cup champions in Argentina. They'll be trying to win the tournament again. You've also got Algeria, who we don't really know what to expect from them. And you got Austria, who are a very solid Tier 2 European side. They're not an elite European team, but they're a Tier 2 team. Now, why do I like Jordan in Jordan's group a bit more than the others? I think it's because if I look at the schedule, I think Jordan have 2 winnable games. I think the Uzbeks have a winnable game, and then if they pulled off something against the other two, it'd be close to a miracle. Qatar don't have a single winnable game. Iraq don't have a single winnable game. Like, if they got to win, the manager of the team they beat is getting sacked mid-tournament. That's how big of a disaster it would be. I think Algeria is a winnable game for Jordan. It's a bit of an Arab derby match. There's going to be a lot of question marks about Algeria. Me personally, I recognize that they're extremely talented, but we need to see how they've done at AFCON, because at major tournaments since 2019, these guys have either not been there or they've been a joke. So, yes, they have players that we recognize. They have good players in Europe. They still got Riyad freaking Mahrez, but they are a beatable side. And I think Jordan has the tools, namely the attack, top 3 attack in Asia, in my opinion, behind Japan and Iran, to capitalize on Algeria. And the second team I think is beatable is Austria. I don't think Argentina is necessarily a beatable opponent for Jordan. I think Jordan will get a goal, but I don't think Jordan can beat the Argentines. Austria concede goals. And recently, since the Euro, they're also cooling down a little bit. Switzerland's kind of the opposite. They were kind of trash going into the Euro, and then they've kind of improved. Austria were better going into the Euro, and now they've had some shaky results. They lost to Serbia. They lost to Romania. They beat Cyprus 1-0. They battled Bosnia basically to a standstill. Jordan will be the underdog in these games, but it is not inconceivable for me to envision them winning. And similarly to what I said about Qatar, what is Austria trying to do at the World Cup? They probably want a round of 16. What does Algeria want? They probably want a round of 16. Argentina wants to win. They definitely want a semifinal minimum. But the rest of these teams, yeah, I mean, they'll take a knockout win and go home admirably. Absolutely they would. So that's why I have them slightly below some of the other groups that I'm going to get to next. I guess that would make the 5th most difficult group, in my opinion, Group D, with Australia. I think it's a very tough group that Australia, hear me out, might not be strong enough to be the favorite, nor be weak enough to be the underdog. I don't think Australians know where they stand in this group. Are you supposed to win any of these games? Are you supposed to beat Paraguay? Are you supposed to beat the States as the host? Are you supposed to beat potentially Turkey? Could be somebody else. And we can, again, part 2 will get uploaded. Hit subscribe. Are you favorites in any of those games? Aussies, let me know in the comments. Likewise, are you expected to lose any of those games? Are you the underdog against Paraguay? Maybe? I don't know. It seems pretty even to me. Are you the underdog against the States? I don't really consider Australia the underdog necessarily. I think a draw is a pretty likely result here. I think the one opponent, ironically, that Australia, I think, is most likely to defeat would be Turkey, because they're an offensive team that would come with a lot of expectations, and Australia could do what they do best and dig deep. Trench warfare, sit back, let the newfound speed and the younglings up top punish Turkey on the counter, get out of there with a 2-1. I think that's the most likely result here for Australia. So it's a very interesting group full of parity. Australia could win every game. They could draw every game. They could lose every game. That's kind of how I see this. We're going to get to the Koreans next. I kind of have a similar thesis for how Group A is going to play out. I guess I'm going slightly easier than Jordan because of the expectations of the opponents. I think Paraguay, Turkey, and the States would all take a quarterfinal. I don't think they have an outright beast in the group. I mean, they don't. Everybody's pretty even. And so for that reason, it is going to be tricky, but it's not a death group. Australians will not be shaking in their boots about any of these opponents. Like Paraguay, very tough team. USA, really tough team. Is anybody scared of drawing Paraguay? Is anybody trembling at the thought, like, were they praying before the draw, like, please no USA, please no USA? No. And that's not because Paraguay and the USA aren't strong. That's just, look, it's a World Cup, man. Most of these teams are good. What do you want? You want Group D or you want Group I with a rock? May they qualify? You comment down below. So it's a manageable group, but difficult for Australia. And I really was hoping that they would get a bit more offensive of a side. That's why I think Turkey actually getting in here will, in the end, benefit them more. I can't remember the other potential teams here. Is this North Macedonia or something? Whatever. If it's a more defensive side, I think Australia is in a ton of trouble. Because already Paraguay doesn't want the ball. I don't know who's going to have the ball in that game. It's going to be either amazing or a brutal 0-0 spectacle. The next group for me is South Korea in Group A. Again, very, very much parity in this group. South Korea could finish first, second, third, or fourth. They could win every game, 1-0. They could lose every game, 1-0. I think I would not place a bet on Group A. I would not place a bet on Group D. I would avoid those like the plague. They are ones that are crazy even. I think if you're South Korean, you can't be mad at this draw because everything's winnable. But at the same time, I mean, think about it. If South Africa is your easiest opponent in a group, you got at least a pretty tough draw, right? If that is the weakest team you're probably going to see here, you better be ready to rumble. And I think South Korea, I think they travel very well as a national team. I think playing in South Korea, it's a cesspool. The fans are upset. I don't think they play particularly well there. I think they'll play better in the States, like they did during the North American tour, than they would, were South Korea to host the World Cup. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I would actually back Korea to go further at an American-hosted World Cup than a home one right now. That's just how the team have performed. That's the vibe. That's the sense I get watching them play. And South Africa, this is a team with one of the longest unbeaten streaks in football. Now, unless they win the AFCON, which, oh my gosh, the scenes, dude. They knock out Morocco at the last AFCON. If they then go to Morocco and win the AFCON, probably warfare will be declared between the two countries. So for the sake of peace on earth, I hope that doesn't happen. But what a story, man. That'd be insane. Their streak will likely end before the World Cup. It'll probably be on penalties in the knockouts or something like that. Which, now that I think about it, does that even count as a loss or is it a draw? Like, y'all let me know. Does a penalty shootout loss affect your unbeaten streak? I actually don't know what the legal definition is, so somebody needs to educate me in the comments. Then you have Mexico, who are the weakest of the CONCACAF hosts, and I don't think it's up for debate. Mexico is clearly worse than Canada and the United States, so that's a positive for South Korea. That's one of the reasons that I have South Korea above Australia's group, because the States are a harder host, a more difficult opponent than Mexico. We already saw Korea go blow for blow with Mexico recently in the 2-2 draw, and if you're taking 1 point from the pot one, guys, most teams are signing that contract. You're going to take that. And then you likely have Denmark. Could be somebody else, though. Similar to Austria, but a little worse, in my opinion. A firm Tier 2 European side. If y'all want a crazy stat, and this is why you need to smash the like button and hit subscribe, because you're not hearing this in other channels. 6 of South Korea's 7 wins at the World Cup all time are against European teams. Isn't that wild? I would have never guessed that. If you want to talk about the true nemesis of Korea at the World Cup, it's South American and African teams. That's who keeps beating their ass. It's not really the Europeans. They have a very close all-time record against Europe at the World Cup, and I think it's because of how South Koreans like to play, kind of like a European model, European play style. I think they're well suited to go up against those guys and not well suited to go against South America or against Africa. And they do have an African team here, and we're going to see. That could be the game of the group stage, honestly. I'm going to say, due to the uncertainty of South Africa outside of the African continent, because these African teams never play anybody else, so we just simply don't know, and the weakness of Mexico, and I think the floppability rate of Denmark, that's not even a word, the probability of flopping for Denmark is relatively high since they already did it last time as well. I'm going to have this narrowly easier than Australia, but if you guys disagree, let me know in the comments. Next up here, Group F with Japan. Very strong European side that they will be playing in the Netherlands, but not invincible, and some managerial concerns. I don't really know anybody that likes Ronald Koeman. I don't really know anybody who likes Hajime Moriyasu either, but please don't get me started on that now. You also have Tunisia, who I think are probably slightly better than they were in 2022 in the last World Cup, but a type of opponent that Japan will be very comfortable, or I should say very familiar. Nothing's comfortable at a World Cup, but very familiar going up against. They're basically Oman, but like twice as good, is essentially Tunisia, or Syria twice as good. So I don't think Japan can take this game easy, but you also need to realistically believe they can win this game by 2 goals, 2-0, something like that. You just got to watch out for the counterattack, which is a concern for Japan, and I will talk more about Japan in a separate video. And then Poland, most likely, which would be a rematch of the 2018 game when Poland won 1-0. And I think they're a Tier 2, a lower Tier 2 European side, and I'm going to say point blank, Japan, at this point in the country's footballing cycle, simply must beat this team. There's no excuse. I don't want to hear about the size of the Polish. I don't want to hear about Lewandowski goal-scoring record. You are Japan. Your entire team is in Europe. If you can't beat Poland, if you can't beat any European team, I could have been Italy. If you can't beat any European team going through the play-in at this point in the cycle, that is an embarrassment. That is unacceptable. You must win this game. So looking at this, Japan are, comment down below, are they favorites to win the group? Are they favorites to win the group over the Netherlands? Comment down below. If the answer's no, then certainly they're the favorites in 2 of these games. And I would say heavy favorites against both Poland and could be Sweden as well. Who else is in that? Slovenia, I think, Slovakia. Doesn't matter. They'll be favorites against whatever European play-in team it is, and Tunisia heavily. Less than 6 points here is unacceptable for Japan. I guess maybe if you drew the Dutch and drew Poland, maybe. I would say that was disappointing, though, in my recap video. You guys would see me rage out if that was the case. And I'm going to mention this because I don't know how I feel about it yet. Does Japan have the highest expectation of any team in this group? You know, I've been doing this for every group. What are the other teams aiming for? What are the Netherlands aiming for? Quarterfinal, semifinal? What's Japan aiming for? Quarterfinal, semifinal? How many times have I said on this channel that Japan should be trying to make a semi? That is how good this team is. This is how good this group of players is. If that's true, and the Dutch are aiming for a quarters, maybe a semi as well, then maybe it's not incorrect to say that Japan has the highest expectations in this group, which is very scary because Japan, under expectations recently, hasn't been very good. But again, more on that later. I'll do an extensive Group F preview another day. Moving on to the second easiest group, in my opinion, is Saudi Arabia's Group H. The bad news is they have the #1 World Cup favorite in Spain. The good news is they have the shadow of a former South American powerhouse in Uruguay and a more than beatable Cape Verde team who is a African Cinderella story, and it's been incredible in the media to see. But Saudi Arabia, with this amount of World Cup pedigree, this much pedigree inside the Asian continent, must win this game. And I'm not being offensive to Cape Verde when I say that. If you want to go look at some of the results, Botswana did the double on them. Egypt beat them 3-0. Cameroon beat them 4-1. They made the AFCON knockouts, which is awesome. You know, narrowly lost to South Africa, who is a darling, a growing dark horse favorite by the day for the next World Cup. But the fact is, Saudi Arabia has to take this opponent. You have to be able to beat Cape Verde if you want to make it out of the group. If you want to be taken seriously, this is Renard's second World Cup with these guys. You already beat Argentina. You're telling me you can beat Argentina, but you can't beat Cape Verde. I don't want to hear that as an excuse. This has to be a win for the Saudis. And I think the minimum expectation here, I'm going to get brazen, is 4 points. The expectation should be you beat Cape Verde, keep it close against Spain, and you draw Uruguay. Y'all played Uruguay, Russia 2018. It was a relatively close game. Uruguay won it 1-0. You have to take this. Under this manager, Marcelo Bielsa, the time is now for the Saudis. You've injected new players into the lineup. You look better going forward. You're still a strong defensive team. You got a manager who's won things, a manager who's been at World Cups. The time is now. There is no excuse for Saudi Arabia to get grouped. Oh my God, if they got grouped, it would be laughable. They deserve to be tarred and feathered if they cannot make it out of this group. And because I think the expectation is 4 points here, that's why I have them as the second easiest group. Because you can't say Qatar's expectation is 4 points. You can't say Iraq's is 4 points. You can't say Jordan's is 4 points. You can't say Uzbekistan is 4 points. You know, South Korea, I would say the bare minimum is 4. But like I said, because it's so even, they could finish in 3rd place. They could finish in 4th place if they don't play well. Same with the Aussies. They're not guaranteed to get 4 points. They could get 3 draws. I wouldn't be shocked if they got 3 draws. So because of that favorable circumstances, I think the Saudis have the second easiest group. Beat Cape Verde, tie Uruguay, keep it respectable against Spain. You get 4 points, and you are through to the knockouts. 4 points, you're definitely going to be one of the better 3rd place teams. You might even be in 2nd, depending on what happens to Uruguay. And the easiest group of all Asian national teams is Group G and Iran. Here is a team that has never been to the knockouts of the World Cup, despite going time and time again. And they have, according to many Iranians, the worst team they've ever seen. And with a manager who is either the Persian goat or an enemy of the state. And that depends on which Iranian you ask and what time of day it is. And the most beautiful irony of this is they have been given not even the group of life, the group of opportunity, the group of dreams, I want to call this. I mean, there is no excuse for Iran to not finally make the knockouts of a World Cup. You could lose to Belgium, beat the other two, go through on 6 points. And even if you finish on 3 points with maybe a 0 GD, you're still probably going to be one of the last third place teams to advance. This is going to be the greatest Iranian failure of all time if they don't advance. This is going to make Qatar at the last Asian Cup in the semifinal look like a hiccup if they cannot get it done in this group. You think the Uzbeks wouldn't trade right now? The Uzbeks would cede part of their territory, part of the physical landmass of Uzbekistan, if it meant that they got to switch groups with Iran here and play Egypt, who they already completely body bagged in a game recently. I don't think the Uzbeks would be scared to play Belgium, who ironically I think they're going to maybe play in a friendly coming up. Oh, Iranians, you got to go here. You got to go here. It's not even inconceivable that Iran win all 3 games. That's not my prediction. Iran could beat Belgium just because of how many goals Belgium concede. Now, it's going to have to be a 4-3, but Belgium have been in some 4-3s recently. So the blueprint is already there. That is the video, guys. Those are my groups ranked from most difficult to easiest for AFC teams. You guys let me know what you think about my rationalizations in the comments, about my ranking down below. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. And if you want to see this for CONMEBOL, CONCACAF, CAF, whatever it is, let me know in the comments, guys. So much more World Cup content on the way. I'm very excited to release it all for you guys. So stick around, hit subscribe. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.